So next talk's a whopper. Like, this is going to really, once I saw this anyway, it changed how I thought about digital marketing metrics. I'm hopeful it'll do the same for a lot of you guys. This is another one of our award winners. Please put your hands together and welcome Beth to the stage. She's going to talk about From Vanity to Sanity.
Thanks, Emil. Cheers. Hi, everyone. So it's going to be very hard to follow such an emotional and uplifting talk by Roisin there, as my talk is focused on profit, but I'll do my best with it. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the saying, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is reality. And in case you're wondering where this saying comes from, it's widely accepted that this man, former Volvo CEO P. Gyllenhammar, first used the expression during the global stock market crash in 1988. He believed that revenue was just an egotistical metric, and the brands that were going to survive at that time were the ones who focused on profit growth and maintaining a healthy cash flow. Fast forward 30 years, and it seems we haven't learned a whole lot from good old Gyllenhammar, but it's true that this saying is just as relevant today as it was then. So over 80% of our clients operate in the e-commerce space. I know a lot of you are here today, and I'm sure you'd agree that maintaining a healthy profit margin is key to your company's survival. We love working with e-commerce clients for lots of reasons, but probably the main reason is that there's always a very clear KPI for us to optimize our campaigns for. And we've seen this KPI evolve a lot over time. So back in 1994, it was all about impressions and display advertising. So this was actually the first ever banner ad on the internet, would you believe? It was created by AT&T as part of their wider You Will campaign, which predicted different scenarios in an internet-enabled future. So it's mad to think that someone clicking through from this banner to the AT&T website was considered futuristic at the time. 2000 then saw the launch of Google AdWords, and with that we saw the KPI move from driving impressions to driving clicks and relevant traffic to websites through search. And in 2005, this was a big year for AdWords with the launch of conversion tracking. So advertisers now could not only just measure traffic going to websites, but also actions users were taking on websites, such as purchases and form submissions. And then, although it was possible to track revenue before this time, 2012 was the year that new ad formats like Google Shopping were launched. So more and more advertisers were now considering revenue a key KPI for their campaigns. So yeah, it's true, we've seen the KPI evolve over time as technology has evolved. But what does the next evolution of this KPI look like? Over the last few years, we've seen massive advancements in Google's AI and machine learning capabilities, and it feels like this technology is evolving faster than ever before. Back in 2000, when AdWords was first launched, Google just had one signal to determine when to actually trigger an ad, and that was the keyword. Now they have over 200 signals, and they know so much more about individual users. They know which websites you've visited, they know which device you're on when you visited that website, they have all of your previous search data. So they have so much information about all of us. It's actually pretty creepy. Sorry to the Googlers in the room. But yeah, with the advancement of this technology, we've seen new ad formats like Smart Shopping launched, where all you have to do is give Google your campaign objective and your budget. And they actually then decide where and when to best show your ad and to which user. So this has essentially leveled the playing field, and it means more and more advertisers are now able to run really effective shopping campaigns and drive a lot of revenue for their brands. Although revenue is up, though, for a lot of these brands in a lot of cases, we're seeing time and time again in the media that profits are down. And no time is this more evident than during Black Friday, when retailers chase revenue growth through deep discounting, which ultimately hurts their bottom line. Not to mention their own customers' well-being. So this is actual data taken from the Black Friday in the US, which is mad to think. So profit has always been considered the most important metric in business, but it is rarely considered a digital marketing metric. And we believe this is where the KPI needs to evolve to next. One brand that has already started considering profit a KPI for their campaigns is Littlewoods Ireland, and they're starting to see real business results as a result. So Littlewoods Ireland are one of Ireland's largest online retailers. I'm sure many of you know them. And we've been working with Littlewoods since 2014, helping them to grow their revenue each year. And because we've always had revenue targets in place, it made sense for our campaigns to focus on high revenue driving categories like electricals. You know, why would we prioritize a dress worth just €50 in our campaigns when a TV could bring in as much as £3,000? However, an insight from Littlewoods told us that electricals actually have among the highest cancellation rates on the site. So what that meant was that the revenue we were seeing in Google Analytics on our side wasn't actually translating into sales and revenue on Littlewoods' side. And as a result, electricals is by far their lowest margin category. So with this insight, 2018 saw a shift in the KPI from revenue to profit. And now the focus of our campaigns was going to be on high profit driving categories such as clothing and footwear. And in particular, we wanted to increase the visibility of Littlewoods' own and most profitable clothing brand, V by Very. So what was the KPI of our campaign then? It was to grow clothing and footwear margin by 9% year on year without compromising on revenue volume. So this was really important. We got the balance right between profit growth and revenue growth. If we focused all of our attention on clothing and footwear, overall revenue was going to suffer as a result. However, we definitely needed to make clothing and footwear itself more prominent in the campaigns in order to have that impact on the bottom line. So how did we do it then? Well, Google Shopping is a key channel for Littlewoods. It drives 65% of their non-brand revenue. And I mentioned earlier how Google's algorithm is now really sophisticated and it's really, really good at driving revenue. But we now needed to make Google optimize for profit instead. So how did we do that? Littlewoods actually invented their own metric called ProUS. So this is essentially a profitability measure that we introduced into their Google Shopping feed. And it calculated daily and basically told us how profitable a product was on a given day. So it looked at criteria such as selling price minus cost price, stock levels, the propensity of the product to be bought on credit, as well as Littlewoods offered this payment option. So all of this criteria was calculated daily, and each product was then given a ranking out of 10. And this ranking system was then introduced into their shopping feed. And this meant we could now really easily categorize their products into 3 priority tiers, depending on how profitable the products were. So we had a high priority, medium priority, and low priority tier in the shopping feed. And this meant we could now very easily structure our Google Shopping campaigns in line with these tiers. So yeah, we had a high priority, medium priority, and low priority shopping campaign. And what this allowed us to do was we could now really easily allocate more of our budget to the most profitable products on the Littlewoods site. And that was essentially telling Google to prioritize these products as well. And it also meant we could much more effectively control our spend on the clothing and footwear category itself. So I'm just going to give you 2 scenarios now so you can see what this looks like from a user perspective. So in this scenario, we're optimizing for revenue. So the user might go onto the Littlewoods site for the first time and they decide that they want to buy a black coat. So they go to the black coat section and they click into a few coats, they have a look around, they like some of the products, but they don't decide to buy at this time. Google now have loads of signals about this user. They know they're female, they know they've visited the Littlewoods site before, so they're familiar with the brand, they know they're in the market for a black coat. So a few days later, this user decides to carry out a search for black coats again because they want to do a little bit more research. And now, because Google has all those signals, they know to show a Littlewoods shopping ad. And the product they're going to choose to show here is one the user looked at, and it's a hunter jacket worth €170. And Google's going to prioritize this product over other products because it has that high average order value, and it's going to bring in more revenue, and that's because we're optimizing for revenue. In the second scenario then, we're now optimizing for profit. And this is the exact same scenario, so the same user, same time frame. They go on the site, they look at the same products, they browse, they decide they don't want to buy at this time. Google still have all the signals about this user. They again come back to search a few days later, carry out the same search. This time, Google are showing a V by Very coat here. And you'll see that the average order value is only €78. However, we know this product is more profitable. And we're essentially, through our new campaign structure, telling Google to prioritize this more profitable product ahead of the Hunter coat. And in this way, we're actually able to drive more sales for Littlewoods in the most profitable areas of the business for them. So how did the results then look at this campaign? So overall, revenue was up 9% year on year, but profit was up 12% year on year. And this is the first time we've seen profit growth outpace sales growth in their most important category. So great result. And earlier on, I mentioned Black Friday being the most unprofitable time of year for retailers. How did Littlewoods actually get on? So again, really strong revenue growth. So revenue up 20% year on year, but profit up 22%. So once again, profit outpacing sales growth. And that's a phenomenal result at a time when other retailers aren't really making any money. Then the icing on the cake was that our focus on profitability was recognized at this year's DMA Awards. So we picked up the gong for Best in Data and Analytics alongside Littlewoods, which is fantastic. So yeah, it's clear the KPI has evolved over time from marketing objectives like clicks and impressions to business objectives like profit. And now that we as digital marketers are optimizing for business outcomes like profit, suddenly everybody in this room becomes a much more important part of the business. As you can now everyone in, sorry, the photo changed. I was like, that's the wrong photo. Suddenly, everyone in this room becomes a much more important part of your business because you can now demonstrate that the work you're doing is having a direct impact on the bottom line. So no pressure at all. Thanks, Mel. Thanks.